Hello everyone, in this video I will talk about data visualization and show you how to create charts in Python. So last week in the discussion, I invited you to read some article on Pew Research Center. And this is an article I randomly pull up. You can see that each article has a chart. So why do we need to use these charts? With these charts, like for the first one, instead of reading this long text, I can quickly see that when it has the peak number and when it has the lowest number of members in the Congress. So and the overall trend is 40. And for example, with this bar chart, I can see like how many people serve, how many people from different branches serve in the army, and this the first branch has the most occupants in the House and the Senate. So these charts can really help us to improve our text to be more intuitive and more expressive. But before we do the demonstration, let's talk about the most common charts that we use. The first one is the bar chart. Bar chart usually usually is used to show the comparison between the categories, between the groups. Like here, we can see the difference between these sales representatives. And the line charts The line charts, it also shows the difference, the change, but instead of being used to compare the difference between the group, it's often used to show the change over the time, especially when the x-axis is consecutive, like the days and like many years. So that's the difference between bar chart and the line chart. And the pie chart, it also still shows the difference between the groups, but it also shows the numerical proportion of the different parts. Like this one, 50% of teams said 55% of teams said about right, and 36% says too much. So it shows the proportion of the different groups. The next one is a histogram. You often see histogram because it shows the frequency of the data. For example, we have a group of people's heights, and I want to show how many people between 5 feet and 6 feet, and how many people are under 5 feet or above 6 feet. Then I use a histogram to see the frequency of the numbers. Okay, and the scatter plot it's often used in experiment in research to show the relationship, to represent the relationship between two variables. For example, this is probably I believe it's the body mass index, and this is the fat. So this scatter plot shows that these two variables has a strong relationship. When the body mass index grows, the percentage of fat in your body also grows. And if the dots are all over the place, scattered, then that shows that these two variables have a weak relationship, right? Okay, so these are some common they use the charts. There are also some others like box plots or area charts. So if you're interested, you can find a lot of materials on YouTube, or you can also go to my channel on YouTube. Okay, now let's get our hands dirty to learn how to create these charts in Python. So this is some data we often see. It's some sales records with the representatives' names. And here it's a month. So for example, Jason had 16 contracts in January. So what kind of charts we can create based on this? We just talked about bar chart to compare the result between these salespersons, right? So we could have a bar chart to compare their performance between each other, and we could create a line chart to see their sales records over the entire year. Or we could have we have a pie chart to see their contribution, their proportion of contribution to the whole unit. So that's our goal to create these three charts. So first, this is let's load the data. So this is still an Excel data. I'd like to save it as a CSV file first, because the CSV file is more friendly for data processing. Okay. I'll close this. So in our last video, we installed Python and we installed Jupyter Notebook. You will see an interface like this when you open Jupyter Notebook. The first thing I need to do is to load this CSV file, load the data so we can access this data. What I need to do is to upload this from the document, from another file, from another folder, sorry. So here is my CSV file. Now open it. Now it's loaded in Jupyter Notebook, and now we can import it. So what we can do is to create a Jupyter Notebook. I click New, we'll open a new Jupyter book, and if you see it here, it's immediately created a file. So they are under the same directory, and I can import it easily. So now we go to the second step to load the data into this Jupyter Notebook as a data frame. The first thing I need to do is to import this library called Pandas. Pandas allows us, give us a lot of the tools to process a data frame. So data frame is a data type that is in Python. So we learned integer number or string, or we learned a group of integer number that's an array. And most of the data we see is like this spreadsheet. It's a table, right? Not this one. A table with a line with rows and columns. So pandas gives us the power to manipulate a data frame. So I need to import pandas, and I'll import another library called matplotlib. This library for creating charts. it worked. So if it prompts you an error, it's likely you haven't installed these two libraries yet. You have to go to Anaconda, go back to Anaconda and to check if it has installed or not. If it hasn't, okay, go to the not installed list and then you can search pandas and then you can click apply to install the library. Okay. Okay, let's come back and now I can read this data into a data frame. I will name it my data frame and see the file name is sales records. It loaded successfully, and if you print it out, you can see it's exactly like what we see in the spreadsheet. Okay, we finished the second step. Before I further proceed, I want to let you know we can add comments for each section in the Jupyter notebook, and it's good to add comments to let readers know, hey, what is this code? What is this code doing? So this one is, for example, read to a data frame. You should always add sufficient comments. The next thing we have to learn is indexing. So, for example, I want to create a bar chart to compare their records in January between these people. So what I need to get is not the entire table, but only the first row. So how to get this first row? What I can do is to use this function location, so this means the index location, and what I need to get is the first row. So here you separate with the comma, and this before the comma is the row number, and after the comma is the column number. For the row number, for example, I want to get from 16 to 36, so this is the first row. For the first row, I don't write number one, but instead it starts the index for the first row is 0. So I need to write 0 here. And for this column, I need to get from 16 to 36, right? Excluding January. So January is the first column. And it doesn't have a column name, but this is the first column, so it's 0. And the column I need to get is from 1 to 4. So you have to write 1 to 5 instead. This is a little bit tricky. So this last number will be excluded. So which means that it will go from 1, 2, 3, 4. It will not including column 5. So you have to write column 5 here. So in this way, what we got is okay. The problem, I name df is not defined, so my name is my data frame, my df. Let's try this again. Here it comes the data. It comes the right data 16 to 36. And this is the column name it included. That looks perfect. So what we need here is if we visualize this bar chart. So the bottom, the x-axis should be the people's name, right? And then the y-axis should be their performance, their sales records. So this data frame what it got is the numbers. How can we get these column names? So the column names, we could use this function to get just the column names. So the column name we want to get is from Jason to John. And like here, I used 1 to 5. So what I should use here is from first column. This is actually the second column. So the first column is 0 here. Okay, so same. I need to index from 1 to 5. And this will return just the column name here. Okay. Okay, I think that's all we have to do, and really to plot it. And then now I'm ready to plot it. So to plot it, I said the library for creating the plots is this matplotlib. We used the short name PLT. So don't use other names. Okay, this is just some common language we use in Python. So like pandas, we use PD for abbreviation, and we use PLT to represent Python plot here. So I use this PLT, and we want a bar plot. So I use a bar plot. Bar plot, and just try. So in the bar plot, what we need to give it is the data for the x-axis and the data for the y-axis. So for the x-axis, I need to give this. So I can rerun this and name it y data. Okay, run this. And I give it x data and y data. And the next code I need to use is PLT show. Okay, excellent. So we got this graph, but there are some things missing on this graph. If we don't tell what these bars are for, and then the readers wouldn't know what does this graph mean. So we need to add like the title for this graph. Title, contracts, comparison of contracts, number of contracts, comparison. Okay, and we also need to tell what this y label for. Y label means number of contracts per year. No, actually it's in January, right? It's a number of contracts in January. Okay, and we should add X label also. Label is sales representative. And we click run to rerun this code. Okay. Now, yeah, now it tells us everything about this graph. Cool. The next thing I want to do is to create a line plot to see their contract, the trend of their contract, number of contracts across the month. So in this graph, then the x-axis should be the names of these the names of these months, and then the y-axis, the data for y-axis should be these sales records, right? So let's get this x data and y data again. So let's do x1 is my DF, and I need to get this first column, and we said the comma, the index, sorry, I left out this function, and the comma, the numbers before the comma represent the number of rows. So we need all the rows, and then we simply add this. And we need the first column. So first column is 0 or 1. Yeah, it starts with 0. The index number starts with 0, so I should add 0 here. If we print x1, let's check. Yes, so this is correct. This is the data from January to December. And then I get the y data. Y data is all the rows again, but it's so all the rows. I don't need to add a number for here. And here I need the column from the second column to the last column, so I can add 1 to 5, or you could just leave that 5 from 1 to all the columns after that. So let's print y. All right, looks correct. Now I'm go ahead to plot this. So for bar plot, you don't have to write PLT by line. You could just write PLT plot. By default, it's a line plot, and I give it the x-axis and the y-axis. Right. Yeah, this looks what we need, right? But it's not that pleasant. So we can modify it a little bit. For example, I can change the line style. Style is not solid line. And we can add a marker to the lines. Let's try see it. Okay, need to add quote to here. This looks better, but we could do more. Like we can change this x-axis into the abbreviation for the month, and we don't know what's this orange line represent for Jason or for Mary. So we don't know that yet. So we can add all these. The first thing I'm going to do is to add this legend. Legend is the box that shows what this color represents for. So for that, I need to get the data. The data for the legend is I go back to the table. The data for the legend should be this column names, right? And we already did this here. That is data frame columns. So get this. I'll just name this legend. Legend is my DAF dot columns. And I'll give this data to the legend. Yeah, and you can specify the location, but if you don't want, that's fine. And see the change here. Okay, now we have a legend for this table, for this graph. Next thing I want to do is I want to change this x-axis to the abbreviations of the month, so I can create a new array, new array, and the elements for the array should be the name of the month, January. Okay, so now I can use this new data for the x-axis, and let's see. Okay, perfect. And don't forget to add the Y label and the title for the graph. So the last thing I want to do is to creating a pie to show their contribution to the whole group, each person's contribution to the whole group. I'll just use January. Okay. So I'll add another line, and this time we use pie. The data we need to give it is the first row. Again, first row is the DFI locker 0, right? And this is the first column, so I don't want it. So it starts from 1 to 5. Let's do this again. First row, so it's 0, and second column to all the remaining columns. So that's the data I want, and I'll give this to the plots. Let's see how it looks. Okay, it did work, but obviously that's not the plot I want. I want to know the percentage of each of the pie, and which person this pie belong to. So what I need to do is to add the it's called a label here for the pie. Okay, the label should be the column names, Jason, Mary. Okay, so I'll just use another variable. Find another variable, label my df dot columns. Of course, you can also reuse the variable you had here. The variable you had here, you can reuse that. That's fine. I can create a new one. That also works. Label. And for the percentage to show on the pie, I need to write auto percentage. Now I need to tell it the format of the percentage. I want to show to digits after the dot. So let's see how it works. For labels. Okay, here it works. Okay. Sometimes we want the pie to look a little bit fancier. And often what you use is to explode it. That means there will be this pie will explode, will be separated from the center. So here there's 4 pies, so I need to give this 4 numbers to this parameter. Okay. Now if we rerun this, right, it's look more professional. And if you want to highlight the Mary and Rose, and then you can make this a little bit further to highlight these 2 numbers. So it could be 0.5. Because they're yeah, they have more contract than the others, so I want to highlight them. Do this. So Mary and Rose, they are a little bit further from the center. Okay. So that's how we create a pie chart, and in the assignments, you will be given some similar task like this, creating bar chart, line chart, and pie chart. You can follow this tutorial around, or you can also look at this code example on my GitHub. And if you meet any bugs, don't be afraid. You can look up our Google. There are numerous posts about any error you can have. And if you still cannot solve that in 30 minutes, then just email me or give me a message. Okay. And last, so sometimes we have bug and we have some code like this code. I don't want it anymore. You can cut it. All right. And don't forget to add comments for all your code. At least there should be at least 1 comment for each section of the code to tell people, hey, what's this code for? Okay, thank you for watching this video. Good luck on your assignments, and let me know if you need help.